Commissioner Smith, Chairman Smith, Commissioner Cohen, thank you for organizing today's Helsinki hearing and for your invitation to share our views on the ongoing costs and consequences of the Republic of Turkey's denial of the truth and obstruction of justice regarding the Armenian Genocide. We all know that the Armenian Genocide is settled history. No serious, objective historian questions the veracity of that characterization. We've seen debate around the false choices presented by Ankara's apologists, calling into question whether America can afford to speak the truth, as if we could ever advance our international interests by compromising our national values. Of course, we know that no foreign country deserves a veto over our human rights policy, our gag rule against our stand against genocide. We must never, ever outsource our nation's moral voice. Most recently, we have seen a cynical campaign by Turkey to silence America's moral voice by arguing against all evidence that the recognition of the Armenian Genocide represents an obstacle to improved Armenian-Turkish relations. That position is akin to saying that post-war Germany's establishment of relations with Israel would have been somehow better served by the world's silence about the Holocaust, or that the path to Hutu-Tutsi reconciliation rests upon a refusal to speak forthrightly about the realities of the Rwandan genocide. There are many aspects to the cost of Armenian genocide denial, cost to both U.S. interests and American values, as well as to international norms. I would like to address just a few of them today. There is, of course, first and foremost, the moral cost. As the chairman indicated, no one has spoken more powerfully to this aspect than Pope Francis. Earlier this month, he offered a sermon during an Armenian Catholic rite in St. Peter's Basilica. The pontiff, consistent with the Vatican's long-standing principled tradition of Armenian genocide recognition, spoke honestly about this atrocity, telling the world that concealing or denying evil is like allowing a wound to keep bleeding without bandaging it. The cause of genocide prevention, a core moral imperative of our age, requires, as the Pope so powerfully stated, that we not engage in concealing or denying evil. A second cost of Armenian genocide denial is the danger to at-risk populations around the world, created by Turkey's precedent of a genocide openly committed and unapologetically denied. Perpetrators of subsequent crimes, from Hitler to al-Bashir, have been emboldened by the international community's failure to confront genocide. Just this week, the President of Israel, President Rivlin, said, quote, "The Nazis used the Armenian genocide as something that gave them permission to bring the Holocaust into reality." There is no compelling observation than that this week. A third cost of Armenian genocide denial is the threat it represents to Armenians, a Christian nation with deep connections to the Western tradition and a long history of friendship with the Armenian people. Very simply, Armenia cannot be safe as long as it is bordered by an overarmed, unrepentant perpetrator of genocide. Armenians cannot be secure as long as Turkish school children are taught that Armenians were traitors, the perpetrators were heroes, and the victims deserving of their fate. A fourth cost is the price the Turkish people pay in terms of their own nation's progress towards greater tolerance and pluralism. A Turkey that fully accepts responsibility for the Armenian genocide would very likely be one that is on the road to rehabilitation into a post-genocidal state. Sadly, we have seen few official signs of progress on this front. And finally, a fifth cost is the destruction of the rich religious heritage of Anatolia, a cradle of early Christian faith. As a result of these genocidal crimes and Ankara's continued obstruction of justice, only a small fraction of the historic Christian presence in Anatolia remains today in modern Turkey. Estimates are that of the well over 2,000 Armenian churches which existed in the early 1900s, far fewer than 50 are functioning today. Perhaps as few as 200 even remain standing. The rest have been ground into dust, with the properties illegally confiscated by the government. And only a small fraction of the historic Armenian Christian population that once populated in Anatolia remains today in modern Turkey to care for their cultural heritage. As an initial step, Turkey's return of the thousands of church properties it outright stole from Armenians, Assyrians, Greeks, Syriacs, and other Christians prior to, during, and after the Armenian Genocide era would represent a meaningful move by the Turkish government toward accepting its responsibility for a truthful and just resolution of this still unpunished crime against humanity. It would as well mark progress for the cause of international religious freedom in a corner of the world sadly known not for its pluralism, but rather for the depths of its intolerance. We need no look further than ISIS to realize the challenges of religious intolerance. Finally, I must comment on President Obama's statement that will be coming out tomorrow. His ongoing failure to properly acknowledge the Armenian Genocide is nothing short of a moral disgrace and an insult to the victims of genocides worldwide. His failure to honor his word and his submission, and I'm saying submission, to Turkish blackmail is extraordinarily bad policy. He leaves the United States isolated, standing virtually alone with Turkey in the denialist camp. He leaves the United States open to ongoing blackmail from Turkey and any other country who can see the weakness of this administration's moral standing. And finally, it leaves no doubt, sadly, that this president's words, his solemn commitment, his considered promises are simply meaningless and open for reconsideration under pressure from foreign governments. Shame on you, President Obama. It is time for the United States and the rest of the world to stand up to Turkey's shameless blackmail and demand justice for the Armenians. Not just for the Armenians, but for all of civilized mankind. Thank you.